The Matriarch's hardest choice. Face the Council's end, or defy the order she's upheld for ages.
The wind howled across the red dunes of Orios 9, cut short by the roar of engines overhead. A shadow loomed, massive, unyielding, blotting out the sun. Behemoth Eternis, the living warship of the Xyphron Empire, descended like a predator. Its hangar bay yawned open, exhaling frigid air onto the scorching sand. Erik Voss stumbled out from the dark, hands bound by glowing green energy cuffs. They bit into his skin, sharp and relentless. But he didn't flinch. His steel-blue eyes scanned the Xyphronian soldiers flanking him, half-human, half-machine, their metal bodies gleaming under the faint light. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. The consciousness grid did that for them. Move! A metallic voice barked from the nearest soldier. It raised a hand, unleashing a jolt of electricity. Pain seared through Erik's spine, hot and jagged. He gritted his teeth and kept walking. "I don't break," he muttered, voice rough as gravel. The corridor inside Behemoth Eternis stretched on forever. The ceiling pulsed with cold green conduits, flickering like the heartbeat of some colossal beast. A low hum echoed, blending with the clank of the soldiers' steel joints. This wasn't just a ship. It was the heart of the Xyphron Empire, a living fortress where every sentient being was consumed by the consciousness grid, stripped of will, reprogrammed into the collective. Erik had seen it happen. His squad, faces he couldn't quite recall, had screamed before going silent. They'd turned back to him, eyes hollow, souls erased. But not him. Never him. The soldiers halted before a massive door. It slid open with a hiss, revealing a cavernous chamber. Green light from the grid flooded the space, bouncing off polished steel walls. At the center stood the Undying Council, 5 formless entities, shimmering orbs of light hovering in the air. No faces, no voices, just a unified mind that had ruled the galaxy for 5,000 years. Erik squared his shoulders, ignoring the cuffs digging deeper. A wave of invisible force swept over him, thousands of needles piercing his skull. The grid was at work, probing his mind, searching for a way to rewrite him. His breath caught, lips splitting as he bit down hard. Blood dripped onto the floor. His head pounded, but he didn't yield. The system shuddered. A sharp electronic screech ripped through the chamber. "It's not working," a voice cut through the noise. "Not from the Council." Erik turned. A figure emerged from the shadows, tall and lean, draped in a shimmering silver-white cloak. Azaria, the Xyphron Matriarch. Her hair flowed like molten metal, eyes glinting with an icy glow. She stopped, her presence silencing the hum. "Tell me," she said, her voice low and cutting. "Why do you resist?" Erik smirked, blood staining his teeth. "I don't know. But I'm here, and you hate it." Azaria tilted her head, studying him like a scientist with a rogue specimen. She raised a hand. A holographic display flared to life, showing data from the failed assimilation. Waveforms spiked and crashed, chaotic and wild. 5,000 years, she said, her tone flat. "No one has ever slipped the grid. What are you?" "Erik Voss," he shot back, voice hard as forged steel. "And I don't break." The grid's hum spiked again, louder, fiercer. The Council's light pulsed violently, a collective will crashing down on him. But it failed. Again. Azaria stepped closer, her breath cold as deep space. "You're an anomaly," she whispered. "A heretic." The door behind her slammed open. A squad of Xyphronian soldiers marched in, weapons glowing in their hands. Azaria turned, waving them forward with a flick of her wrist. "Take him," she ordered. "I'll find the answers myself." They dragged Erik away, but he caught something. A faint crackling in the grid's hum. A fracture, small but real. The perfect system wasn't perfect anymore, and he was the flaw. The cell door slammed shut with a metallic clang, locking Erik Voss inside a tight steel box. Faint green light seeped through the cracks, pulsing from the consciousness grid overhead. It flickered like a dying star. He slumped against the cold. Floor, wrists free now, the energy cuffs gone, but the ache lingered, a dull throb in his bones. His head pounded, a drill boring into his skull, but he was still himself, still unbroken. The grid had hit him again on the way here. He'd felt it. A crushing weight slamming into his mind, like a tidal wave against a crumbling dam. His breath had hitched, chest tightening. Fragments flashed. Faces of squad mates, their screams. Then nothing. The memories stopped there. Blocked. By a wall he couldn't breach. Sweat beaded on his forehead. He clenched his fists. "I don't break," he whispered, voice raw. The door hissed open again. Azaria stepped in, not a squad of drones this time, just her. Her silver-white cloak shimmered in the dim light, but those eyes, cold as a void, cut through everything. She stood still, staring at him. The grid's hum softened in her presence, like she was its beating heart. "You're not afraid," she said, voice low and sharp as a blade. "Why?" Erik met her gaze, unflinching. "Fear doesn't change a damn thing. I'm here. What do you want?" She glided closer, her steps echoing with a faint metallic ring. With a flick of her wrist, a hologram flared up, displaying the grid's data from his failed assimilation. The waveforms jittered, wild, untamed. "Everything has order," she said, her tone flat as steel. "But not you. Tell me, Erik Voss, where do you come from?" He smirked, dried blood cracking on his lips. His mind churned, grasping at shadows. A word flickered. Prometheus. Images hit him, an underground lab, glowing syringes, a voice murmuring, "Resistance." Then it faded. Smoke in the wind. "I don't remember it all," he said. "Just that I was built to fight you." Azaria tilted her head, her eyes narrowing as if dissecting every syllable. She waved a hand, dismissing the hologram. "Built? A human project, then. But your kind vanished long ago. Are you the last remnant?" "Not a remnant," Erik shot back, voice hard as iron. "A beginning." The air thickened. The grid's hum spiked, a low buzz rattling the walls. Erik felt it again, pressure stabbing into his skull, deeper, fiercer. His vision blurred, hands trembling. He heard laughter, the clank of metal, then a distant voice. "We won't break." Not his voice. Someone else's. Someone he'd lost. He slammed a fist into the floor, the impact ringing out. Pain snapped him back. "I don't break," he growled, glaring up at her. Azaria didn't flinch. She turned, the hologram vanishing. "You don't understand," she said, her voice dropping to a murmur. "Your existence is a fracture, and fractures spread." Erik frowned. But before he could push, she faced him again. "The Council wants you gone. Now," she said. "But I see something else. A possibility." Her eyes gleamed, strange and sharp. "Have you ever heard of a prophecy, Erik Voss?" He froze. The word prophecy hit him like a shockwave, sending a chill down his spine. He didn't know why. "What the hell are you talking about?" he rasped. Azaria smiled, her first, but it held no warmth. "I saw you," she said, "in the system's dreams. A small flame, burning in the dark. The Council calls it heresy. I call it fate." The grid's hum surged, shrill and piercing. A blast of green light erupted from the ceiling, slamming into Erik. He roared, crashing to the floor, head splitting, like it had been cleaved open. But through the agony, he heard something else, a faint crack, not from him, but from the ship itself. Azaria spun around, eyes wide. For the first time, she didn't look in control. Erik Voss sat locked in a steel cage deep inside Behemoth Eternis. 4 walls hemmed him in, pulsing with faint green conduits from the consciousness grid. Their hum droned on, steady as a machine's breath. The cuffs were off, but his wrists still ached, raw from the energy that had bound them. His head throbbed, memories flickering like ghosts, half-formed, slipping away. He stood pacing to the wall. His fingers brushed a conduit. It buzzed under his skin, hot then ice-cold. He shut his eyes, digging for something solid. A voice echoed in his skull. "We're the last flame." Was it his squad? Himself? What had Prometheus done to him? He slammed a fist into the steel, the clang sharp and hollow. "I don't break," he muttered, breath heavy. The door slid open with a hiss. No Azaria this time, just a lone Xyphronian, a low ranker. Its half-human, half-machine body gleamed faintly, eyes of metal flickering. No weapons, no escort. Erik tensed, ready to lunge. But the thing didn't move. It just stood there, eyes twitching like a glitch. You're different, it said, voice choppy, like it was fighting to speak. I feel you. In the grid. Erik narrowed his eyes. What are you getting at? The Xyphronian tilted its head, hand trembling. I remember. A name. Before they took it. It paused, staring at the floor. Gideon. He stepped closer, voice dropping low. You shouldn't remember. A damn thing. The grid wipes it all. Gideon, it repeated. The word a lifeline pulled from the void. I heard it when you came, when the grid touched you, and failed. The air grew heavy. The grid's hum sharpened, grating on Erik's ears. He felt it again. Pressure clawing into his mind, 1,000 pins pricking his brain. Sweat stung his eyes, dripping down his neck. But this time, it wasn't just him. A faint whisper cut through, not his voice, but the Xyphronian's. Why? Erik asked, voice rough as sandpaper. Why's it happening because of me? Gideon didn't answer right away. It turned, staring at the wall. The green conduits flickered, erratic now, like a signal gone haywire. You're the crack, it said, and cracks spread. The door hissed open again. Azaria swept in, her silver-white cloak catching the light. She glanced at Gideon, then locked eyes with Erik. That icy stare softened, just a flicker, barely there. Everything has order, she said, but her voice wavered, less certain than before. Not anymore, Erik shot back, stepping toward Gideon. He remembers. He's not yours now. Azaria raised a hand. A hologram flared up, showing grid data, waveforms spiking worse than ever. Not just him, she said. 3 others reported any glitches since you arrived. Erik froze. His pulse hammered. He hadn't said a word to convince anyone. His sheer existence was doing it, crumbling the system from the inside. A chill ran through him. If he was the cause, he was the target. Heretic, Azaria said, her voice a low growl. The council knows. They're not happy. I don't. Give a damn what they think, Erik said, fists clenched. I'm here to survive. She turned away but didn't leave. Survival's not enough, she said. You'll destroy everything, or become something greater. The grids. Hum cut out. Silence gripped the cell, thick and unnatural. Then a dull boom rattled the walls from somewhere deep in the ship. Azaria spun around, eyes wide. They've decided, she whispered. Erik caught the sound of metal boots echoing down the corridor, dozens of them closing in fast. Something was coming, not to cage him, but to end him. But in the shadows behind Azaria, Gideon's lips twitched, a faint, real smile. Metal boots clanged down the corridor, their rhythm sharp and relentless. Erik pressed his back against the cold steel wall, the consciousness grid's green conduits flickering overhead. Gideon stood beside him, his metal eyes twitching fast. Azaria lingered in the cell's center, her silver-white cloak still as stone, but her fists clenched tight, a crack in her icy mask. What's their call? Erik asked, voice rough and low. The air felt thick, not just the grid, but something heavier looming. Azaria turned, her eyes burning like twin stars. The council doesn't take chances, she said. They want you erased. This ship too, if it comes to that. Erik smirked, but his heart slammed against his ribs. Death didn't scare him. He'd danced with it plenty on Orios 9's battlefields. But dying here, swallowed by Behemoth Eternis's dark belly, felt like losing. A faint voice echoed in his head. Don't break. Not now. Prometheus had wired something into him. Steel. Will or a curse, he couldn't tell. Gideon stepped forward, voice stuttering. I feel them. The council. They're afraid. Afraid? Azaria snapped, her tone cutting like a blade. The council doesn't fear. They are order. They're eternal. But her words trembled, like she was convincing herself more than him. A second boom rocked the ship, closer this time. The floor shuddered, dust raining from the ceiling. Erik felt the grid hit him hard, a brutal wave crashing into his skull like knives carving through his brain. He dropped to a knee, gripping his head. His breath rasped, vision swimming. Flashes hit him, a lab, masked figures, something glowing pumped into his veins. The last flame, a voice whispered. Then darkness. He smashed a fist into the floor, blood streaking from his knuckles. "I don't break!" he roared, hauling himself up. Azaria's gaze flickered, cold but curious. "You don't get it," she said. "You're fracturing the grid. Not just Gideon. Others are waking. If the Council blows this ship, they bury the truth with it." "Truth?" Erik stepped closer. "What truth?" She didn't answer. Her hands shook as she raised them. A hologram sparked to life from her wrist device, mapping Behemoth Eternis. A red dot pulsed at its core, the ship's power heart. "This is its lifeblood," she said. "Crack it open, and you might slip out. But the Council won't forgive me." Erik narrowed his eyes. "Why risk it? You're their damn matriarch." "Everything has order," she said, but her voice faltered. "Until you showed up. I saw you in the system's dreams. A spark, a glitch. I can't ignore it." The boot stopped. The cell door slammed open. Xyphronian soldiers marched in, weapons glowing green. But something bigger loomed behind. A council enforcer. Not just light, but a hulking biomachine, twice Erik's height. Its voice rumbled like thunder. "Erik Voss, heretic. Azaria, you've failed. The order's given." Azaria stiffened. Erik saw her hands tighten. "I haven't failed," she said low and fierce. "I'm searching for answers." "No answers," the enforcer boomed. "Only order. The dark matter gates live. This ship's got 3 cycles before it's gone." Erik frowned. "Dark matter gate?" Azaria's voice dropped. "A final weapon. It'll swallow Behemoth Eternis, everything on it, into nothing. They'd rather burn their own than let you breathe." A third boom hit, tilting the floor. A ceiling chunk smashed down, crushing a soldier's head. The rest didn't blink. Grid puppets didn't care. But Gideon moved. He shoved Erik clear of another falling slab. "I won't let you die," Gideon said, voice steady now. Erik locked eyes with Azaria. "Make your choice," he said, hard as steel. "Them or us?" She didn't speak. The grid's hum screeched, and Erik caught whispers. Not one voice, but dozens, faint and separate. "I remember," one said. "I'm me," another chimed. The pressure in his head eased like the grid was slipping. The enforcer faced Azaria. "You caused this," it said. "He's poison in the grid. You'll die with him." She stepped between it and Erik. "Everything has order," she said, voice shaking. "Until it's wrong." She fired a white blast from her wrist, slamming the enforcer back. Its red glow flickered. "What the hell?" Erik yelled, dodging debris. "Buying us time," Azaria snapped, turning to him. "The core! Hit it now! Gideon!" Pointed down the corridor. "I know the way. Follow me." Erik nodded, but paused. "You're not doing this for me," he said to Azaria. "You're doing it for you." She smirked, cold, but real. "Maybe both," she said. "Go! Before it's too late!" They bolted from the cell. The corridor bucked, booms echoing behind. Soldiers gave chase, sluggish now, like the grid was fraying. Erik's chest burned, not with fear, but something else. Hope. Then a third voice screamed from the dark, a new crack in the system. The steel floor bucked hard under Erik's boots. The third boom still rang in his ears, blending with the consciousness grid's faltering screech. Cracks split the cell walls, green conduits sparking like frayed nerves. Azaria faced the council. Enforcer. Her silver-white cloak torn, but her eyes burned steady. Erik clenched his fists, breath ragged. Gideon hovered close, his metal frame trembling, like he was fighting something inside. "You've betrayed order," the enforcer roared, its voice a grinding quake. It raised a massive arm, red energy crackling to life. "Behemoth Eternis will be cleansed. All because of you, Erik Voss." Erik felt the grid slam into him, harder than ever, a tidal wave of pain ripping through his skull. He dropped to his knees, teeth gritted. It burned like fire, like 1,000 blades slicing his mind. Screams echoed, Not his, but theirs. The squad he couldn't name. A flash hit, him strapped to a table, blinding light, a voice whispering, "The flame never dies." Then nothing. Blood trickled from his nose. "I don't break," he snarled, forcing himself up. Azaria glanced at him, her gaze sharp and strange. "You see it now?" she said. "They fear you more than me. They—" Enforcer lumbered forward, the floor cracking under its weight. "No fear, only order. The dark matter gate's active. 3 cycles, and this ship's dust." Erik's brow furrowed. "Dark matter gate?" Azaria's voice dropped low. "A last resort. It'll devour Behemoth Eternis, everything aboard, into the void. They'll sacrifice their own to bury you." A 4th boom hit, close enough to tilt the floor again. A steel shard crashed down, smashing a soldier flat. The rest didn't flinch. Grid drones didn't feel. But Gideon did. He lunged, shoving Erik clear of another falling chunk. "You don't die here," Gideon said, voice firm despite the stutter. Erik locked eyes with Azaria. "Pick a side," he growled. "Them or us." She didn't answer. The grids hum. Spiked, and Erik caught it. Dozens of whispers, not a single mind anymore. "I remember," one voice said. "I'm me," another echoed. The pressure in his head lightened, like the system was cracking apart. The Enforcer turned to Azaria. "You did this," it said. "His presence taints the grid. You'll burn with him." She stepped forward, shielding Erik. "Everything has order," she said, voice trembling, "until it's wrong." A white blast erupted from her wrist, slamming into the Enforcer's chest. It staggered, red glow flickering. "What the hell are you doing?" Erik yelled, dodging a collapsing. "Beam! Giving us a shot!" Azaria snapped, spinning to him. "The core! Break it now!" Gideon pointed down the hall. "I know the way." "Move!" Erik nodded, but paused. "You're not saving me," he said to her. "You're saving yourself." She smirked, thin but real. "Maybe both," she shot back. "Go, before it's over." They bolted from the cell. The corridor shook, booms rolling like thunder. Soldiers chased slower now, the grid's grip slipping. Erik's chest burned, not fear, but a spark he couldn't name. Gideon led them down a narrow stairwell deep into the ship's guts. The grid's hum faded, replaced by a roar, like the beast was dying. They hit a junction, and a new figure stepped out, not a soldier but another Xyphronian, eyes glowing like Gideon's. "I'm free," it whispered, voice shaky. "Because of you." Erik stopped, breath heaving. He glanced at Gideon, then the newcomer. Before he could speak, the core's roar surged, louder, closer. A red glow flared from the hall's end. The dark matter gate was waking. The corridor jolted hard under Erik's boots as he sprinted after Gideon. The core's roar thundered through Behemoth Eternis, drowning out the consciousness grid's fading hum. Red light from the dark matter gate bled through cracks in the steel walls, painting the air a sickly crimson. Another Xyphronian, freed moments ago, ran beside him, its metal body glinting. "I'm Rin," it said, voice shaky but clear. "I remember now. Thanks to you." Erik didn't reply. His breath burned, heart pounding like a war drum. Pressure gripped his chest. Not the grid, but something deeper. A memory flashed, him shouting in the dark, voices chanting, "The flame burns alone." Prometheus had forged him for this, hadn't it? He gritted his teeth, shoving it down. "I don't break," he muttered, pushing faster. They skidded to a stop before a massive door. Gideon's metal fingers danced over a control panel, and it groaned open. The core loomed ahead, a giant sphere suspended mid-air, pulsing cold green light. Conduits snaked from it like veins, twitching erratically. The roar grew deafening, shaking the floor beneath them. "Here it is," Gideon said, voice choppy, but sure. "Crack it, and the gate stops." Erik stepped forward, but a boom echoed from behind. He spun. Azaria burst into view, her silver-white cloak shredded, silver blood dripping from her shoulder. The Council Enforcer loomed after her, its charred bulk unstoppable. "You won't escape," it bellowed, raising an arm. Red energy flared, streaking toward Erik. Azaria moved first. She shoved him aside, the blast slamming into the core instead. A piercing screech ripped through the chamber as the sphere shuddered, green light flickering wildly. You're insane, Erik yelled, scrambling up. What the hell did you do? Azaria panted, clutching her shoulder. I stalled the gate, she said. But not for long. Break it, now! Gideon and Rin darted to the core, hands flying over the controls. Erik followed, but the Enforcer closed in. It swung an arm, red energy crackling. Erik didn't think. He leaped, smashing a fist into its limb. Pain shot through his hand, sharp and hot, but the blast veered, cratering the ceiling. A steel chunk crashed down, pinning the Enforcer's leg. You're just a human, it roared, struggling free. You can't win. I don't need to win, Erik snapped, voice like forged steel. I need to live. Azaria flanked him, eyes wavering. The Council's wrong, she said, low and firm. I see it now. Your proof. The core's roar spiked. Gideon shouted from the controls. Found a weak spot, but I need time. Erik spun to Azaria. Hold it off, he said. I'll back them up. She nodded, raising her wrist. A white blast erupted, slamming into the Enforcer. It roared, staggering back. Erik bolted to the core, joining Gideon and Rin. He didn't know the tech, but he spotted a red conduit, different from the green tangle. There, he said, pointing. Hit that. Gideon nodded, slamming his fist down. Sparks flew, the core's hum faltering. But another boom hit, not from the core, from deeper in the ship. Erik turned. The corridor glowed red. The dark matter gate was still alive. Not enough, Rin said, eyes wide. The gate's holding itself. Erik's jaw tightened, mind racing. Pressure crushed his chest, not the grid, but him. A voice whispered, the flame never dies. He shook it off, turning to Azaria. She knelt beside him, silver blood pooling. You don't have to die here, he said, voice steady. Help me. She met his gaze, silver blood streaking her arm. Help you? She murmured. I've never chosen. The system chose for me. Not anymore, Erik said. You see, them. He nodded at the soldiers, 3 now frozen, clutching their heads, whispering lost names. They're free. You can be too. Azaria went still. Then she grabbed his hand, pulling herself up. I'm not doing this for humanity, she said, voice hard again. I'm doing it for me. The Enforcer roared, charging again. But before it reached them, a louder blast shook the ship. The floor split, red light flooding in. Erik glanced. Back. A new squad of soldiers marched from the glow, weapons primed. We're out of time, Rin said, voice trembling. Azaria faced Erik, silver blood dripping. You've got a choice, she said. Break the core and die here, or run and live. Erik stared at the core, then the soldiers. The voice whispered again. The flame never dies. He clenched his fists, turning to Gideon and Rin. Break it, he said. I'm not running. But before Gideon could swing, a scream cut through the soldiers. One dropped, clutching its head. Remember, it rasped. Then another. The grid was shattering. A scream tore through the soldiers, sharp and raw, slicing over the core's dying roar. Erik spun, chest heaving. One Xyphronian clutched its head, weapon clattering to the steel floor. I remember, it rasped, voice breaking. Another. Crumpled, metal eyes flickering like a busted circuit. The consciousness grid's hum screeched, then sputtered, its unity fracturing into chaos. Gideon slammed his fist into the core's red conduit. Sparks sprayed, the green glow dimming fast. It's fading, he said, voice steady now. One more hit, Erik glanced at Azaria. She stood between him and the Council Enforcer, silver blood dripping, her wrist still raised. The Enforcer loomed, its charred bulk trembling with every step, like the grid's collapse was dragging it down too. Look at that, Erik shouted, stepping closer. They're waking up, your system's falling apart. Azaria didn't answer. Her eyes flickered, ice melting into doubt, darting from the crumbling soldiers to Erik. Everything has order, she whispered, a mantra cracking at the edges. She lowered her arm, the white glow fading. The Enforcer lunged, and she didn't dodge. Its metal arm stabbed into her shoulder, silver blood splashing across the floor. Azaria! Erik roared, charging forward. He smashed a fist into the Enforcer's arm. Pain flared, hot and sharp, but it didn't budge. She hit the ground, gasping. I can't, she said, voice faint but clear. I've guarded it too long, but you're the truth. The enforcer wheeled on Erik, voice booming like a storm. You change nothing. The dark matter gate's open. Behemoth Eternis is finished. Erik felt the floor quake harder. Red light from the gate flooded in, turning the chamber into a nightmare haze. He spun to Gideon and Rin. Break it! He bellowed. Now! Gideon swung again. A sharp crack rang out, the core's light snuffing out. The roar dulled, but the gate's red glow held strong. Rin turned, eyes wide. It's not enough, he said. The gate's running solo. Erik's jaw clenched, mind racing. Pressure crushed his chest. Not the grid, but something inside. A memory hit, him in darkness, a voice saying, the flame doesn't win, it burns. Prometheus hadn't made him a destroyer, just a spark. He shook it off, dropping beside Azaria. You don't have to give up, he said, voice low and firm. You can choose. Help me. She stared, silver blood streaking her hand. Choose, she murmured. I've never chosen. The system did that for me. Not anymore, Erik said. Look at them. He jerked his head at the soldiers. 3. Now frozen, whispering names from a lost past. They're free. You can be too. Azaria went still. Then she gripped his hand, pulling herself up. Not for humanity, she said, voice hardening. For me. The enforcer roared, charging again, but before it struck, a deafening boom shook the ship. The floor split wide, red light pouring through. Erik glanced back. A massive shape loomed in the glow, not soldiers, but a Xyphronian warship. Its hull piercing Behemoth Eternis like a blade. The fleet, Azaria whispered, eyes widening. They're here to end it. Erik stood tall, staring at the warship. Its engines roared, drowning everything else. His heart pounded, not fear, but fire. He looked at Gideon, Rin, and the waking Xyphronians, then at Azaria. We're not done, he said, fists tight. I don't break, neither do you. She nodded, her gaze losing its chill for the first time. Then fight, she said, to the last breath. But before they could move, another blast hit, not from the fleet, but from Behemoth itself. A white flash erupted from the core, racing through the walls. The grid's whispers turned to screams, hundreds of voices, free and wild, bursting through the chaos. White light exploded from the core, racing across Behemoth Eternis's steel walls. Screams erupted from the consciousness grid, hundreds of voices clashing, free but chaotic. Erik braced himself, boots steady despite the quaking floor. Gideon and Rin flanked him, their metal eyes blazing with new life. Azaria knelt nearby, clutching her bleeding shoulder, but her gaze stayed locked on the Council Enforcer. The Enforcer roared, its massive frame shuddering. You can't shatter us, it bellowed, raising an arm. Red energy flared, streaking straight for Erik. He dove aside, the blast scorching the wall behind him. His heart hammered, not fear, but fire. A memory flashed, him in flames, a voice, growling, the flame lives to ignite. Prometheus hadn't built him to destroy, just to spark. I don't break, he snarled, charging the Enforcer. He slammed a fist into its chest. The impact rang like a gong, pain shooting through his arm. It staggered, red glow flickering. Gideon! Rin! Erik shouted. Now! The freed Xyphronian sprang forward. Gideon drove his metal hand into the Enforcer's arm, sparks flying. Rin leaped, smashing its head. The Enforcer roared, crashing to the floor, but clawed its way back up. Azaria rose, silver blood dripping. She aimed her wrist device and fired, a white blast ripping into the Enforcer's chest. It screamed, frame convulsing, then went still. The red light died out. Erik panted, staring at her. You killed it. No, she said, voice low and firm. I chose. She turned, eyeing the soldiers behind them. Half stood frozen, clutching their heads, whispering lost names. The rest advanced, weapons glowing. The warship's roar outside drowned everything. A gaping hole tore open in the wall, revealing the fleet's hulking shadow. Red light from the dark matter gate mixed with the core's fading white, the floor cracking wide. Air hissed out into space. We've got to move! Gideon yelled, yanking Erik toward a side corridor. Erik grabbed Azaria's arm. "You're with me," he said. "You made your choice." She nodded, but her eyes wavered. "I don't know if I can leave it all," she said. "But I'll keep you alive." They bolted down the hall, soldiers on their heels. Booms rattled the ship, chunks of Behemoth Eternis peeling away. Erik felt pressure, not the grid, but the ship's death. Throws, whispers from waking Xyphronians swelled. Dozens now, a chorus of defiance. Gideon led them to a small escape bay. The door slid open, revealing a dusty shuttle, ancient but intact. "It works," Gideon said, hammering the controls. "Barely. Enough room, though." Erik faced the chasing soldiers. 3 more freed Xyphronians emerged from the shadows, joining them. "I'm free," one rasped, voice trembling but real. Azaria stood by the shuttle, looking at Erik. "You can't save them all," she said. "But you've changed everything." He clenched his fists, eyeing the freed and the loyalists. "I'm not running to hide," he said. "I'm running to fight." Gideon fired up the shuttle. Its engines growled, shaking the bay. Erik shoved Azaria and the freed Xyphronians aboard. He lingered, facing the soldiers. One fired, a green blast streaking past. He ducked, grabbed a steel shard from the floor and hurled it. It cracked a soldier's skull, dropping it cold. "Get in!" Rin shouted, dragging Erik aboard. The bay door slammed shut. The shuttle rocketed out, bursting through the wall's breach. Erik peered through the window. Behemoth Eternis crumbled behind them, the dark matter gate swallowing its wreckage. A warship fired, but the shuttle veered, slipping into spaces. Black embrace. They'd made it. But a new rumble echoed. Engines, distant but closing. The fleet wasn't done. The shuttle tore through space, engines howling like a wounded beast. Erik Voss slumped by the window, steel-blue eyes fixed on the black void. Behemoth Eternis shrank behind them, a fading red speck as the dark matter gate swallowed its wreckage. A final boom echoed, faint but heavy, rumbling through the steel floor. They'd escaped. But they weren't safe. Azaria stood at the controls, clutching her shoulder where silver blood had crusted over her torn cloak. Gideon and Rin hammered at the console, fighting to keep the ship steady. 3 freed Xyphronians sat silent in the back, their metal eyes flickering, still grappling with their unshackled minds. No one spoke. The engine's growl filled the void. Erik's fists tightened, his head spinning. A weight pressed his chest, not the grid but something raw inside. A memory flickered, him in darkness, a voice murmuring, "The flame doesn't hide, it guides." Prometheus had etched that into him. Not to win, but to light the way. "I don't break," he muttered, staring out. Gideon glanced back, voice choppy. "The fleet's still on us. 3 warships. They're not letting go." Erik hauled himself up, striding to the console. A hologram flared, showing 3 red blips closing fast. "Where are we headed?" he asked. Azaria met his gaze, her eyes glinting strange and sharp. "A planet on the galaxy's edge," she said. "Human ruins. I don't know what's left, but it's our only shot." "Ruins?" Erik frowned. "How do you know about it?" She paused, then answered. "The system logged it once, before I chose order. It's where your kind made their last stand." His heart kicked hard. Humanity. He wasn't the last, not entirely. If she was right, he had to get there. "Push it," he said, voice like steel. "I'm not letting them cage us again." Rin slammed the controls. The engines roared louder, the shuttle shaking like it'd tear apart. A boom rang out, not theirs. A red energy blast streaked past, grazing the hull. The cabin lurched, Azaria crashing into the wall. "They're firing!" Gideon shouted, gripping the console. "The armor won't hold long!" Erik lunged to the window. The nearest warship loomed, a steel titan glowing with the grid's green light. Pressure nudged his skull, weaker now, the grid fraying. Whispers echoed, not from the ship, but inside him. "The flame guides," a voice said. He yanked Azaria up. "Can you throw them off?" he asked. She nodded, panting. "This ship's got a jammer," she said. "I can scramble the grid's lock," But it's a short window. Do it, Erik snapped. I need time. Her fingers danced over her wrist device. A pulse rippled out, the hologram flickering. The red blips slowed, like the fleet lost its bearings. But their engines still thrummed through the void. Gideon pointed at the screen. There! A faint green dot blinked ahead, a barren planet shrouded in gray dust. We're close! The shuttle hurtled toward it, but another blast hit. This time it struck true. The hull screeched, smoke pouring from the console. A freed Xyphronian yelped, clutching a charred arm. We won't last! Rin yelled, voice cracking. Erik charged the controls, smashing the throttle. The engines screamed, hurling them forward. Through the window, the planet sharpened, twisted, metal spires jutting from the dust, scars of a dead civilization. Azaria leaned in, silver blood streaking her arm. If we make it, she said, they won't stop. This isn't a hideout. It's a battlefield. I don't need a hideout, Erik said, voice low and firm. I need a start. The shuttle plunged into the atmosphere, rattling hard. Flames licked the hull, the fleet's red glow trailing behind. But as they crashed onto the dusty surface, a shadow flickered in the dark, not a warship, but a faint, blinking signal from the ruins. Someone was still alive. The shuttle crashed onto the planet's surface, kicking up a storm of gray dust around its scorched hull. The engines sputtered out, leaving an eerie silence. Erik Voss hauled himself up, breath heavy, peering through the window. A faint green signal blinked from the ruins, a lone pulse in a sea of twisted metal. Gideon and Rin abandoned the controls, their metal eyes glinting with curiosity. Azaria stepped beside him, silver blood crusted on her shoulder, her gaze sharper than ever. We're here, she said, voice low but steady. But the fleet won't quit. Erik's fists clenched, his mind racing. A weight pressed his chest, not the grid, but a fire stirring inside. A memory flickered, him in the dark, a voice whispering, the flame doesn't end, it starts. Prometheus had forged him as the first spark, and now it was spreading. I don't break, he muttered, stepping forward. The shuttle door slid open. Cold, dry air rushed in, thick with the tang of burnt steel. Erik stepped out, boots crunching on the ashen ground. The ruins stretched before him, shattered towers, wrecked ships, scars of a war long forgotten. The green signal pulsed from a small structure ahead, faint but stubborn. Gideon pointed skyward. They're coming! Erik looked up. 3 Xyphronian warships pierced the atmosphere, their red engines blazing like blood against the gray sky. Their roar rolled through the valley, swallowing every other sound. A red blast streaked down, slamming the ground yards away. Dust exploded, knocking Erik back, but he scrambled up fast. Run! He barked, yanking Azaria toward the ruins. They sprinted through the wreckage, boots slipping on rusted steel. Gideon, Rin, and the 3 freed Xyphronians followed, their metal frames moving with uncanny speed. Another blast hit, the ground quaking. Erik glanced back. A warship descended, its bay splitting open, spilling dozens of soldiers. But not all. Attacked. Some froze mid-step, clutching their heads, whispering names from a buried past. The grid's breaking, Azaria said, panting. You did this. Not me, Erik shot back, voice hard as iron. Us. They reached the structure. Its rusted door creaked open, revealing a dim room. The signal blinked from an ancient device on a table, a human beacon, still alive after millennia. Erik approached, hand brushing it. A voice crackled through static, weak but clear. This is the endpoint. If anyone hears we're still here, he froze. His pulse raced. They're alive, he whispered. Azaria stood beside him, eyeing the device. Not many, she said, but enough to start over. A blast rocked the ruins outside, shaking the room. Gideon darted to the door. They're surrounding us, Erik turned to Azaria. You said this was a prophecy, he said. What is it? Her eyes gleamed like stars. I saw you, she said, in the system's dreams. A small flame in the dark. If you're the first to defy the grid, others follow. The Empire cracks. Not today, but it's begun. He tightened his fists, peering out. More soldiers faltered, freed minds breaking through. "I'm not fighting to win," he said. "I'm fighting to change." Azaria nodded, her smile faint but warm. First time he'd seen it. "Then I swear," she said, "I'm with you, to the end." A closer boom hit, dust raining from the ceiling. Erik faced Gideon, Rin, and the freed Xyphronians. "Get ready," he said. "We're not done." The warship touched down, its shadow swallowing the ruins. Erik stepped outside, facing the fleet. No weapons, no army, just will. He glanced. Up, the human signal blinking faintly. Then he heard it. A new engine roar, not the fleet's. A small ship burst from the ruins' shadows, bearing humanity's mark. It fired a white blast into the warship, rocking it hard. The flame had risen,